Beloved, I want you to hear me with every part of your being, because what I am about to share is not just another uplifting message. It is a prophetic announcement straight from the heart of God. There are rare moments in life when the voice of heaven breaks through the chaos of our circumstances and jolts us awake. And I believe this is one of those moments. God has sent me to tell you this. You are on the verge of regaining everything that was lost. Every dream, every opportunity, every blessing that slipped from your grasp, every relationship, every resource, every door that was slammed shut, He is about to restore it, renew it, and return it in a way that will leave no doubt it was His hand at work. This is not wishful thinking. It is not a mere possibility. It is a divine certainty when you place your trust fully in Him. You see, the enemy has been working to convince you that what you lost is gone forever. He whispers that the season of blessing is over, that the window of opportunity has closed, and that your best days are behind you. He points to your past mistakes, the time you wasted, the chances you missed, and says, there's no way back from here. But God says, I make a way where there is no way. God says, I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. God says, what the enemy intended for harm, I will turn for good. You may have been in a season of loss, but your season of restoration is already beginning to break through. Some of you listening have been traveling through the valley of disappointment for so long that you have learned to live with the emptiness of what you've lost. You stopped praying for certain things because you thought they were gone forever. You quieted the hope in your heart because you didn't want to face the pain of being let down again. But I have come to tell you, God has not forgotten you. He saw the tears you shed in the darkness when no one knew the depth of your pain. He saw the sacrifices you made when no one said a word of thanks. He saw the moments you pushed forward when everything in you wanted to stop. And He is saying to you today, it is time. It is time for you to recover. You may not understand the way it will unfold. You may not see any sign of change right now. But restoration does not start with visible evidence. It begins with a word from God. And when God speaks, the impossible becomes possible. In the Scriptures, David faced one of the most heartbreaking moments of his life. In the city of Ziklag, the Amalekites had burned it to the ground and taken captive everything and everyone he loved. His own men were ready to turn against him. But David did something that can change the course of your life if you choose it today. He strengthened himself in the Lord. He did not surrender to despair. He did not give in to defeat. He sought the Lord for guidance, and God spoke to him, saying, pursue, for you will surely overtake them, and without fail recover everything. And that is exactly how it happened. David regained all that had been taken from him. I am here to tell you that the same God who restored David is the same God who will bring restoration to you. Do not accept the lie that your story has ended. Do not allow the enemy to convince you that your loss is the final chapter. God is the author of your life, and His pen has not stopped writing. In fact, He is about to turn the very page the enemy intended for your downfall into one of the greatest testimonies you will ever carry. When God restores, He does not simply give back what you lost. He multiplies it. He doesn't just take you back to where you were. He launches you beyond anything you have known before. This is why the enemy came after you with such force. This is why the storms raged against you. The devil does not waste his attacks on empty vessels. He targets those who carry a divine assignment. And you, my friend, carry a destiny worth defending. Some of you have been saying, but I failed. I squandered the opportunities. I was the one who walked away from what God entrusted to me. Hear this clearly. God's power to restore is not restrained by your failures. The blood of Jesus speaks a word over you that is greater than your past. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, yet the Lord restored him and used him to proclaim the gospel with authority. The prodigal son squandered his inheritance on reckless living, yet the father ran to embrace him, clothed him in the finest robe, and held a feast in his honor. Restoration is not a prize for those who never falter. It is an act of mercy extended to those who humbly return to Him in faith. And today, God's arms are open wide, ready to restore you fully. This restoration will not only be material, it will be spiritual, emotional, and relational. God is preparing to mend your broken heart. He is about to lift the heavy weight of grief that is pressed against you for far too long. He is going to restore your joy, your peace, your confidence, and your sense of purpose. Some of you lost your worship during the heat of the battle. You stopped praising because the pain overwhelmed you, but now you are about to sing again. You are about to dance again. You are about to dream again. What the enemy attempted to destroy in you, God is breathing back to life even now. But understand, this restoration begins with faith. God does not restore those who remain in doubt. He restores those who choose to believe Him at His word. Even when every sign around you screams impossible, you must speak life into what appears dead. You must declare His promise before you see the evidence. When God instructed Ezekiel to prophesy to the dry bones, there was no trace of life before him. Yet as he spoke, the bones began to align, flesh formed, and breath entered them once again. The same power that brought those dry bones back to life is the very power at work in your life right now. But you must also be ready to take action. David did not remain sitting in the ashes of Ziklag, waiting for restoration to simply arrive. He rose and pursued what had been taken. God is preparing to open new doors for you, but it is your responsibility to walk through them. He will place opportunities before you, yet you must take hold of them. Restoration is never a passive gift. It is an active pursuit fueled by your obedience. When God commands you to move, move. When He tells you to step out in faith, take the step. When He urges you to forgive, release that forgiveness. The quicker you respond in obedience, the sooner your recovery will come. And understand, this restoration often arrives in ways you least expect. It may not come through the people you imagine. It might not flow through the channels you thought were necessary. God delights in surprising His children, in bringing beauty out of ashes in ways that leave you saying, only God could have done this. So stop trying to work out every detail. Stop telling God the method He should use. Trust Him completely. The one who created the heavens and the earth knows exactly how to restore everything you've lost. Some of you listening have lost years of your life to addiction, years in destructive relationships, years consumed by fear and insecurity. You may feel those years are wasted, but with God, nothing is ever wasted. He redeems time. He can fill your next season with more purpose, more blessing, and more fulfillment than all your previous years combined. You might think your time has run out, but God holds time in His hands, and He declares, I will restore the years. I need to tell you this: when you receive back what was lost, give God the glory. Too many cry out to Him in times of loss, yet forget Him once blessings return. Don't be that person. When He opens the door, remember who opened it. When He restores your health, remember who healed you. When He brings your prodigal home, remember who answered your prayers. When He turns your mourning into dancing, remember who brought the joy. Your restoration is not only for you, it is a testimony to the world of God's goodness. But be aware, restoration will draw attention. Some will rejoice with you, others will envy you. David recovered everything, yet not everyone in his camp celebrated with the right heart. Some will question how you received blessings after all you endured. Some may even try to take credit for what God has done. Let them speak. Let them speculate. Your focus must remain on the one who restored you. The opinions of man can never reduce the favor of God. You may feel as if you are still sitting in the ashes of Ziklag today, but I assure you, the same God who told David, "Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and without fail recover all," is speaking the same promise over you right now. I can almost hear the sound of chains snapping, prison doors swinging wide, and blessings rushing back into your life. It is the sound of restoration. You are about to step into a season where everything stolen will be returned to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You did not walk through the fire for nothing. You did not shed those tears in vain. You did not fight those battles without purpose. God is about to make the enemy regret the day he came against you. Your restoration will become your victory. Your testimony will silence every lie from the pit of hell. And when you look back, you will see that each loss, every delay, and every setback was actually a divine setup for the glory God is about to reveal in your life. Child of God, receive this truth in your spirit. The hand of the Lord is not too short to save, nor his ear too heavy to hear your cry. When God declares restoration over you, no power of hell, no human decree, and no chain of circumstance can stop it from happening. The same God who spoke the universe into existence with a single word is speaking over you right now. He is not bargaining with the enemy for your blessing. He is commanding it. The same God who told the sea, "You may come this far and no farther," is now declaring to the powers of darkness, "You must release what you have stolen." And when God issues the command, the enemy has no choice but to obey. This is the moment when God will not only return what you lost, but also strengthen you to keep it. Too often we focus on the return without embracing the transformation. Restoration is not only about getting back what was taken, it is about becoming the person who can faithfully steward the blessing. God is shaping your heart so that when the breakthrough arrives, it will not crush you but crown you. He is refining your character so that what was once stolen will now be guarded by the armor of your faith and the maturity of your spirit. The enemy believed that taking from you would weaken you. He assumed that stripping you bare would leave you exposed and broken. But what he did not anticipate was that the fire you endured was purifying you. He did not expect that the wilderness you walked through was building your endurance. He did not realize that the loss you suffered would cause you to cling more tightly to the Lord. And in holding on to Him, you discovered a strength you never knew existed. The truth is, the enemy's attack has completely backfired. You are now more dangerous to the enemy than ever before, because you are emerging from this trial with deeper faith, keener discernment, and a greater anointing. Let me share something the Spirit of God is impressing on my heart right now. God will not only restore, but He will do it in such a way that your latter days will make your former days seem small in comparison. This is the very promise He gave to Job after losing everything, his livestock, wealth, health, and children stripped away in a moment. His friends falsely accused him, and his wife urged him to curse God and die. Yet Job clung to his integrity and faith. In the end, Scripture declares the Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former. That is not merely poetic expression, it is a prophetic pattern. What God did for Job, He will also do for you. He shows no favoritism. The only difference between those who receive and those who miss it is their willingness to hold on in faith. Understand, this restoration is not random chance. It is the fulfillment of God's covenant. He promised His people that if they returned to Him, He would gather them from the ends of the earth and restore their fortunes. Through the prophet Joel, He declared, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten." He vowed to bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, and comfort all who mourn. These are not hollow words. They are divine assurances sealed by the blood of His Son. If God has spoken it, it is already settled in heaven. Someone listening right now may be thinking, it's too late for me. But the Lord is saying, I am the God of the 11th hour. I can accomplish in one day what would take man 10 years. I can take you from the prison to the palace overnight, just as I did with Joseph. Joseph was forgotten by men, but remembered by God. And when the appointed moment came, one conversation with Pharaoh transformed his entire destiny. That is what God is preparing for you, a sudden breakthrough, a divine reversal, an unexpected open door that will bring you into a season where everything stolen is returned and multiplied. But, child of God, you must align your life with His Word. Restoration is not for the half-committed. It is not for those who desire the blessing without walking in obedience. It is for those willing to pursue righteousness, turn away from compromise, and seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, knowing that all these things will be added to them. If you want to see God's hand restore, you must place yourself fully under His hand in surrender. You must be ready to release bitterness, let go of unforgiveness, and abandon the hidden sins that weaken your spirit. Sometimes what delays your restoration is not the enemy's opposition, but your own hesitation to obey. Let me share a prophetic truth with you. Restoration often starts with repentance. The moment you turn back to God with your whole heart, you step under the open heavens of His favor. Think about the prodigal son. His restoration didn't happen while he was feeding pigs in a faraway land. It came when he came to his senses, rose up, and returned to his father's house. And his father didn't greet him with judgment. He welcomed him with a robe, a ring, and a celebration. That is the way your God restores, not sparingly, but abundantly. I also want you to understand this. When God restores, He also brings peace to your mind. Many of you have been haunted by the memories of what you lost, replaying the mistakes, the betrayals, and the moments you wish you could change. True restoration means God redeems not only your situation, but also your outlook. He can remove the sting of the past so that when you look back, you no longer feel the pain, you feel the gratitude. He will rewrite the emotional narrative of your life so that what once brought you sorrow will now bring you praise. In this season, your restoration will not be hidden. God will make it visible. He will set a table before you in the presence of your enemies. He won't restore you quietly for only a few to notice. He will do it openly so that even those who doubted you will have to admit that the Lord has been faithful. This is not to glorify you, but to magnify His name. Your comeback will be living proof that God is still working miracles. There is a divine shift taking place in the Spirit. Even now, the tide is turning, the scales are balancing. The forces that stood against you are being overturned. God is moving people, rearranging situations, and orchestrating events to bring you into your appointed season. You may not see it yet, but the angels of the Lord are already on assignment for you. They are releasing what has been held back and delivering answers to prayers you thought had been forgotten. Heaven has already issued the command, return to my child what rightfully belongs to them. I must give you this reminder, once you regain what was lost, do not return to the places or patterns that led to the loss in the first place. Restoration is a holy gift, and it comes with responsibility. Guard your heart, guard your thoughts, guard your connections. The enemy would like nothing more than to take it again, but when you stand firm in the full armor of God, you will remain unshaken. This is your moment to rise, to walk in spiritual authority, and to lay hold of your inheritance in Christ. You are about to reclaim not only what you lost, but also the truest version of yourself. The confident, faith-filled, and joy-filled person the enemy tried to bury is about to rise again. Your prayers will carry fresh power. Your praise will overflow with passion. Your steps will move with renewed purpose, and everyone who sees you will know you serve a God who restores completely. There is a holy urgency stirring in my spirit because some of you have been stuck in delay for so long that you've begun to settle into it, almost believing this is how life will always remain. But I have come to break that mindset. The God you serve does not abandon His children to endless seasons of lack. He is a God of divine timing, of sudden breakthroughs, and of miraculous turnarounds. He can compress years of waiting into a single supernatural moment. One word from His mouth can tear down the walls that have blocked you and open the floodgates of blessing. And that word has been spoken: recover all, not a portion, not fragments, but everything. Understand, this true recovery is about more than regaining what was stolen. It is about God restoring the witness of His power in your life. The enemy's ultimate goal was never your possessions, your opportunities, or even your relationships. His aim was your faith. He thought that by stripping away your joy, your resources, and your hope, you would walk away from God. But you didn't. You're still here. You're still standing. And because you remain steadfast, God is about to turn you into living proof that He is faithful until the very end. At times, the Lord will even allow something you cherish to be taken not to harm you, but to reposition you for greater. Consider how the children of Israel lost the comfort and predictable rations of Egypt. It seemed like a loss, yet it was God preparing them to inherit a land flowing with milk and honey. They had to be freed from chains before they could step into the promise. In the same way, what you viewed as loss may have been God's way of opening your hands so He could fill them with something far greater. There is another truth you must grasp. God's restoration comes in layers. You might be praying for the return of a single thing, but God often gives beyond your request. Hannah prayed for one son, yet God gave her Samuel, a prophet, a judge, and a spiritual leader for the entire nation. Ruth prayed simply for food to survive, yet God gave her a husband, a family, and a place in the royal lineage of the Messiah. When God restores, He does not return the bare minimum. He restores in overflowing abundance, so that there will be no doubt His hand has done it. I feel led to tell you this: you have been living under the shadow of almost received the job, almost experienced the breakthrough, almost saw the answer to your prayer. And you've started to wonder if your life will always be trapped in this cycle of near victories that slip away. Hear me clearly, that cycle ends now. You are moving from almost to absolutely. What slipped through your fingers in past seasons will not escape you this time. When God declares it is time, no person, no system, and no spirit of delay can stop your blessing from reaching you. As you step into recovery, remember the posture that unlocks heaven gratitude. Many people wait until the miracle arrives before they give thanks, but true faith thanks God in advance. Praise is more than a response to blessing. It is a prophetic key that draws it in. Paul and Silas sang praises in prison before any chains fell, and their worship shook the earth, opening every door. If you can lift your voice in praise while still in the valley, the mountaintop will come into view much sooner. Let me speak plainly. Restoration is not about chance, it's about alignment. God seeks vessels who can carry His blessings without being corrupted by them. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually God's mercy, protecting you from a gift you are not yet prepared to manage. So when you pray for restoration, also pray for readiness. Say, Lord, prepare my heart, prepare my mind, prepare my hands to handle what you are sending. That way, when the blessing comes, it will not be wasted, it will multiply. Never forget, recovery demands courage. When Israel finally reached the border of the Promised Land, they still had to face giants. Restoration does not mean there will be no battles. It means God will give you victory in each one. Do not shrink back at resistance, for the size of your opposition often reveals the greatness of what you're about to claim. If the enemy is fighting you fiercely, it's because he knows the treasure waiting on the other side. I also feel prompted to speak to those who didn't just lose possessions, but trust. Betrayal wounded you deeply. Someone you relied on turned away, leaving a scar on your heart. Hear this: God will restore not only your ability to trust people, but even more importantly, your ability to trust Him without reservation. This restoration will heal your heart so you can walk in love without living in fear of being broken again. And when this restoration comes, it will be marked by acceleration. What once took years to build will now take months. What felt like a slow uphill climb will turn into a supernatural lift. God is not confined to your timeline. He redeems time itself. He will release blessings so swiftly that you will scarcely have time to take it all in. Amos 9:13 declares, "The plowman will overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him who sows seed." This is the essence of divine acceleration harvest, arriving so quickly that planting is still underway. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and wipe the tears from your eyes, because your season of recovery has arrived. God's word never returns empty. His promise will not be postponed. The same God who called Lazarus out of the tomb after 4 days, the same God who fed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish, the same God who rolled away the stone on resurrection morning is about to remove every obstacle that has blocked you from what belongs to you. You will not stumble into restoration. You will step in with confidence, with joy, and with a song the enemy cannot silence. When God declares that you will recover everything, it is not a mere suggestion. It is a royal decree from the throne room of heaven. And when heaven decrees a thing, creation itself moves to fulfill it. The winds shift, the seas part, the mountains bow, and the impossible surrenders to the name of the Lord. That is the power of His promise over your life. I feel the Spirit of the Lord pressing this truth deeply when God says, "Recover all." He is speaking not only of physical restoration, but also of divine vindication. The loss you suffered was more than a setback. It was a direct attack on your destiny, your purpose, and your kingdom assignment. And when God restores, He does it in a way that humiliates the enemy. The very weapon that was meant to destroy you will become the testimony that strengthens you. Some of you have endured seasons where people misjudged you, spoke lies about you, and even rejoiced when you stumbled. They assumed the story ended at your lowest point. But God, in His perfect timing, is about to lift you up in front of the same onlookers, not to glorify you, but to make it undeniable that His hand is upon your life. He will display His power openly, not to validate you in the eyes of people, but to reveal His unwavering faithfulness to all. And understand, this restoration is not only about regaining what was lost, it is about surpassing what you had before the loss. The principle of God's kingdom is that the glory of the latter will always be greater than the former. When the temple was rebuilt after its destruction, its second glory exceeded the first. Why? Because God never moves His people backward. Even in restoration, He propels you ahead. Whatever He returns to you will be greater, stronger, and more fruitful than it ever was before. To truly walk in this restoration, you must be willing to release the ashes. Many cling to what has been burned, holding on to fragments of the past simply because they feel familiar, even when they are shattered. God cannot place new blessings into hands that are already occupied. Release the bitterness, the regrets, the if only, and what if. The oil of gladness can only be poured when the spirit of mourning is laid down. Restoration demands empty hands and a heart fully open to receive. There is also a sacred discipline in preparing for restoration. The woman in 2 Kings 4, who possessed nothing but a small jar of oil, did not simply wait idly for God to act. She went out and gathered vessels, as many as she could find. The flow of oil matched the capacity she had prepared. Your restoration will manifest in proportion to the space you make for it. If you prepare little, you will receive little. But if you expand your vision, stretch your faith, and open your life for greater capacity, the oil will continue to pour until every vessel is completely full. Understand also that restoration will at times require directly confronting the enemy. David did not merely receive God's word and remain by the fire. He pursued the enemy's camp. He entered the territory where his people and possessions were being held and reclaimed them. You may need to face the lies that have bound you, the fear that has silenced you, or the sin that has distanced you from God. Recovery means refusing to let the enemy control the terms of your life. It means stepping boldly into his camp to reclaim what belongs to you in the name of Jesus. And when you recover it, it will come with increase. Proverbs 6:31 says that when the thief is caught, he must repay sevenfold. This is not just poetic imagery, it is a divine principle. Every tear you have shed, every sleepless night, every opportunity stolen will be multiplied back into your life. God will transform your weeping into reaping, your pain into provision, and your loss into a lasting legacy. The very years the enemy believed were his victory will become the years God uses to demonstrate his unmatched power in your life. Some of you must prepare for restoration in relationships. Prodigals are returning. Broken friendships will be mended. Families will be reunited by the spirit of reconciliation. And I declare this prophetically, some relationships will not return to how they were before. They will be restored stronger, deeper, and more rooted in Christ than ever. The cracks the enemy once exploited will be sealed by God's own hand, forming an unbreakable bond. Never think for a moment that God's restoration overlooks the inner man. He is reviving courage in the faint-hearted. He is reigniting dreams in those who stop dreaming. He is restoring the fire in those whose faith has grown cold. You will not simply enter a new season carrying your possessions. You will step into it with a renewed spirit, a clearer vision, and a heart fully aligned with the will of God. I believe that many of you will one day look back on this moment and say, that was the turning point. You will trace the blessings of your future to the day you dared to believe again. You will realize that God was never late. He was right on His perfect schedule. You will see that the stripping away with truth. I will guard my thoughts like a mighty fortress. I will refuse to let doubt cross these gates ever again. That is the moment your entire life begins to turn. You must be relentless with your thoughts. Let me repeat that you must be relentless with your thoughts. Don't give fear a moment to settle. Don't give anxiety a shadow to hide in. Don't give regret a chair at your table. Your mind is sacred ground. Do not allow it to be trampled by lies. Guard it, fortify it, train it. And how do you do this? By feeding it only what comes from God. Speak remembrance every morning. Speak gratitude every night. When a negative thought creeps in, answer with faith. When your mind whispers you can't, declare God can. When your mind says you're not enough, respond with, God is more than enough, and I belong to Him. My friend, there is no greater strength than a mind set firmly on God. A mind anchored in His truth is unmovable. This doesn't mean you will never face challenges, but it means those challenges will not face the same version of you because you will carry the thoughts of a warrior. You will have the mind of someone who walks closely with God. When your thinking aligns with His truth, even in the darkest night, you will know peace. In the midst of chaos, you will remain steady. In seasons of loss, you will not lose your sense of purpose because your mind will not be shaken by what is temporary. It will be rooted in what is eternal. Some people will find it unusual. Others won't understand the calm you carry, the strength you display, or the way you refuse to panic like the rest. That's all right. Let them wonder, because what they don't realize is that you are no longer ruled by circumstances. You are led by truth. You are no longer enslaved to fear. You are grounded in faith. You are not a reflection of your surroundings. You are a reflection of your connection to God. Your thoughts are no longer scattered. They are intentional. They are shaped by divine wisdom, not by the clamor of the world. Let me speak directly to your heart. Mastering your thoughts is more than a mental habit. It is a spiritual discipline. It is an act of worship. It is an act of defense. It is an act of obedience. Because every single time you choose to align your thinking with what is right, pure, peaceful, and strong, you are honoring the very one who designed your mind in the first place. You are declaring to God, I place my trust in you to guard my thoughts. I refuse to let my mind wander into places you never intended for me to go. And let me assure you, the more you live this out, the stronger you will grow. Just as muscles are strengthened through repeated exercise, your mind becomes more resilient each time you choose disciplined thinking over careless thoughts. Every time you reject a lie, you build a shield of protection. Every time you fill your mind with truth, you plant seeds that will bloom into lasting peace. The more you practice this, the more clearly you will see. Your decisions will improve. Your words will carry greater confidence. You will draw peace instead of conflict. You will feel lighter because your thoughts will no longer weigh you down with constant burdens. This is the kind of life God desires for you, not one of mental torment or confusion, but a life marked by discipline, inner strength, peace, and clarity. It all begins with mastering the one thing you have complete authority over your thoughts. And I say this to you with every ounce of urgency in my spirit. If you do not take control of your thoughts, they will take control of you. Your mind is not a playground. It is a battlefield. And you cannot afford to be casual in the middle of a battle. You must rise each day with your mind fully armed, not only with knowledge, but with remembrance. Remembrance of God, remembrance of who you truly are, and remembrance of who He created you to become. Some of you hearing this have been carrying thoughts that were never meant to dwell in your mind. You have been nurturing fears that were never from God. You have been treating anxiety as if it were a permanent resident. You have been allowing the mistakes of your past to invade and poison your present peace. The greatest tragedy is not what happened to you. It is that you allowed what happened to redefine who you are. But hear me clearly, God has never defined you by your past. He defines you by your potential. And your potential will remain locked until your thoughts align with His eternal truth. You cannot rise to new heights while your thinking remains low. You cannot live a life of power while your mind entertains weakness. You cannot walk in God's strength while your thoughts bow to the rule of fear. So the time has come. It is time to drive out every lie, time to silence every voice in your head telling you that you are broken, worthless, or without purpose. Those voices are not from God. And anything that is not from Him must be removed. Let me tell you a reality most people never speak of. There is a war raging inside you, and your mind is the throne. Whoever wins that battle becomes the ruler of your life. If fear wins, fear will rule. If shame wins, shame will rule. But if God's truth wins, then peace will reign, strength will reign, clarity will reign, and your life will display the order and power of God Himself. That is not simply wishful thinking. That is the order established by God Himself. Now, let us go even deeper. Do you know what the real danger truly is? It is not the storm raging outside your home. The true danger is when the storm finds its way inside your mind. That is when sleep escapes you. That is when you begin to doubt everything you once knew. That is when blessings start feeling like burdens and opportunities begin to look like threats. But when your mind is anchored in God, even in the fiercest storm, you will remain steady. Even as the waves crash around you, your thoughts will not be tossed about. Because peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of God dwelling in your thoughts. And this is what God desires for you. Not merely that you believe in Him in theory, but that your thoughts become a holy temple for His presence, a sanctuary of constant remembrance, a fortress of unshakable faith, a place where doubt suffocates and fear cannot take root. Picture a mind so saturated with God that insecurity finds no room to settle. Envision a mind so disciplined that negativity dies before it can grow. This kind of mind is not only possible, it is your divine calling. But understand this clearly. It will not happen by accident. You must choose it. You must act with intention. You must treat your mind as sacred ground. Just as you keep your home clean, you must cleanse your thoughts. Just as you lock your doors at night, you must shut out ideas meant to steal your peace. Some of you are too unguarded with your mind. You allow anyone to speak into it. You watch without discernment. You scroll without pause. Without realizing it, you are letting the enemy hang his decorations on the walls of your thoughts. That is why your mind feels overcrowded. That is why peace seems distant. That is why focus has become a stranger to you. But today can be the day you reclaim it. You take back the gate to your mind. You take back your God-given authority to decide what may enter and what must be driven out. Not every thought is worthy of your attention. Not every voice is worthy of your agreement. Not every memory deserves a seat in your future. You must learn to dismiss what God never sent. There is something holy about a mind filled with the remembrance of God. Because when your thoughts are firmly anchored in Him, everything begins to shift. Your choices become wiser. Your relationships gain clarity. Your responses grow calmer. Your dreams become bolder. Your value no longer rests on opinions, but on eternal truth. You are no longer swayed by praise or crushed by insults. Because your thoughts are not built on shifting sand. They are set upon the unshakable foundation of your Creator's voice. You were never designed to live at the mercy of your emotions. You were never meant to be ruled by impulse or frozen by fear. You were formed by God with precision, excellence, and strength. That strength begins with the way you think. The same God who created the heavens and the earth has given you the authority to shape your inner world through the power of your thoughts. And when your thoughts come into agreement with divine wisdom, you no longer see the world the same way. You stop merely reacting. You begin to respond with intention. You stop simply surviving. You start leading. You stop only dreaming. You begin building. Because now you are walking with a renewed mind, a mind saturated with God's truth. Do you understand how priceless that is? A sound mind is rare. It is a sacred gift. In a culture flooded with noise, distraction, and deceit, a mind that continually remembers God is a rare jewel. It shines like light in the middle of darkness. It becomes calm in the midst of chaos. It carries a power that cannot be explained by earthly logic. And if you possess such a mind, if you discipline it daily, no shadow can overtake you. But this requires a decision. You must resolve in your heart, I will not be idle. I will no longer allow my thoughts to drift like a ship without a compass. I will fight for clarity. I will fight for peace. I will fight for purity in my thinking because my destiny is tied to the quality of my thoughts. And I will not let fear or the stains of the past poison my mind. I will fill my inner world with light. I will fill it with purpose. I will fill it with God. Every single day, your mind is either constructing your future or dismantling it. The greatest danger is when you are unaware of what you are allowing inside. This is why you must become intentional about what you feed your thoughts. Every word you read, every conversation you choose to engage in, every image you take in, all of these either strengthen your faith or weaken it. And if something is starving your faith, you must remove it. Not later, right now. If it clouds your mind, it is stealing from your future. If it undermines your trust in God, it is too costly to keep. You were never called to think like the rest of the world. You were called to rise higher. You were created to see with a different vision, to think with a transformed mind, to walk with a new strength. And that difference begins the moment God becomes the center of your thoughts. Not occasionally, not only in crisis, but consistently, constantly, even in seasons of joy, even when everything is going well, God remains your focus. Because let me tell you the truth, peace is not something you find when the storm finally passes. Peace is found when God becomes the very atmosphere you live in, when He is the breath your mind inhales, the space your thoughts rest in, the foundation under every choice you make. That is when peace takes the throne. That is when strength begins to overflow. That is when clarity becomes your inheritance and confusion loses its power. So I urge you with all my heart, start today. Train your thoughts. Examine what you allow into your mind. Cleanse your patterns of thinking and surrender your inner world back to the one who formed it. He knows your needs. He knows your true potential, and He will empower you as you discipline your mind to mirror His greatness. The world may spin in disorder, but you will walk in divine order. The world may be overcome with panic, but your thoughts will remain anchored in strength. Others may sink into hopelessness, yet you will stand with steady confidence because you know exactly who holds your mind. And when your mind is in God's hands, there is no force in existence capable of shaking you from your divine purpose. Listen to this deeply, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. Your thoughts are holy ground. The mind is not meant to be a playground for confusion, corruption, or compromise. It is a garden planted by God Himself, intended to produce fruit that brings honor to His name. But the question remains, who is tending that garden? Who is watering it? What seeds are being planted each day through the words you hear, the voices you welcome, and the things you silently take in? We live in an age that glorifies noise, constant stimulation, endless opinions, flashing images, and digital addictions. People scroll their days away, filling their minds with voices that care nothing for their soul. Then they wonder why their peace has disappeared. They wonder why they feel empty the moment the screen goes dark. They wonder why, after chasing so much, nothing truly satisfies. But how can peace dwell within if your thoughts are being shaped by things that do not honor God? Let me be direct. What you permit into your mind has the power to mold your destiny. A distracted mind leads to a wandering life. A polluted mind leads to a poisoned heart. You cannot keep feeding your inner world with things that weaken your spirit and still expect to walk in the strength God designed you to carry. You must be courageous enough to say, no, I will decide what enters my mind. I will guard the gates of my thoughts like a soldier protecting the palace of a king, because your mind is the royal court where decisions are made, and the king you serve deserves a pure and undefiled temple. Let me go even further. It is not only in the hard seasons that you must protect your mind. You must be just as vigilant in the calm seasons, when life feels smooth, when your prayers seem answered, and when everything appears to be going well. Those are the moments when the mind is most at risk. That is when you may be tempted to lower your guard. That is when pride sneaks in and whispers, "You accomplish this." That is when self-dependence begins to replace dependence on God. The instant your thoughts forget the true source of your strength, the decline quietly begins. The enemy does not only strike during storms, he attacks through ease, through distraction, and through comfort. He doesn't always aim to destroy you outright. Sometimes he only wants to divert you. And he does it with a single thought. One seed of laziness, one whisper of "you've done enough," one subtle suggestion of "you're not like them." Before long, your thoughts shift from gratitude to entitlement, from surrender to self-praise. And once the mind wanders, the soul soon follows. But those who walk closely with God must guard their thoughts daily, hourly, even in moments of stillness, especially in moments of stillness. Because your real life is not what you display to the world. It is what unfolds in the quiet theater of your mind when no one is there to see. The truest version of you is not in your outward image, your public reputation, or even your accomplishments. The real you is revealed in the hidden patterns of your thoughts. If God were to project every thought you have entertained this past week, would it reveal peace? Would it reveal worship? Would it show a heart that genuinely longs to please Him? Even in your private moments, it is not enough to simply say you love God. Your thoughts must love Him as well. Your inner dialogue should honor Him. Your imagination should carry purity, hope, self-control, and purpose, and these cannot be fabricated. You cannot trick your way into a sound mind. You must nurture it every single day, intentionally, prayerfully, like a flame that must never be allowed to die out. Your thoughts need to remain ignited by constant remembrance of God. The moment that flame fades, shadows begin to invade. And here is a powerful truth: what you dwell on is what will grow in your life. If you dwell on pain, pain will multiply. If you dwell on fear, fear will increase. If you dwell on what is missing, you will start to feel empty even when blessings surround you. But if you dwell on the greatness of God, peace will grow stronger, clarity will widen, strength will deepen, and even in seasons of trial, your soul will remain steady. Some of you must make a decision today to fight for your thought life. You have been too lenient, too accepting, too gentle with the very things that have been quietly draining your power. You've allowed your mind to become a warehouse for negativity, for voices that were never from God, for comparisons that choke out your unique calling. But this ends now. You are not a prisoner to random thoughts. You are not bound by painful memories. You are not chained to the habits of your past. You have the freedom to choose. And when you choose God, you choose clarity, you choose strength, you choose self-discipline. There is great power in a disciplined mind, not one that tries to control every outcome, but one that rests in the hands of the one who rules over all things. It is the mind that says, even when I cannot understand, I will not be moved. Even when I cannot see the path ahead, I will not fear, because my thoughts are anchored in trust, not in circumstances. That kind of mind cannot be stopped. That kind of mind walks into storms without trembling. That kind of mind endures betrayal without shattering. That kind of mind turns away from temptation without regret. That kind of mind chooses silence over gossip, purpose over distraction, and peace over chaos, because it has been trained. It has been surrendered. It is filled, not with the noise of the world, but with the stillness of God. But understand this: a God-filled mind is not something you are born with. It is something you build. It is built through daily remembrance, through choosing stillness instead of constant noise, through refusing to give place to any thought that opposes the very nature of the one who created you. You must take your place as the guardian of your own mind. Stand watch at the gateway of your thoughts, questioning every idea, every emotion, every whisper. Do you come from God? And if the answer is no, refuse it entry. You are not powerless. You are not beyond repair. You are not too far lost. If your mind has been a battlefield filled with torment, it can be transformed into a fortress of peace. If your thoughts have been restless and scattered, they can be brought into order by the hand of God. But the choice must be yours. You must stop waiting for transformation to simply fall from the heavens and start intentionally shaping the thought life that reflects your highest calling. In the end, you will not be judged for every thought that passed through your mind, but for the ones you chose to keep. You will not be held responsible for every idea that knocked on the door, but for those you welcomed in. So let this be your bold declaration. There is no vacancy for fear, no lodging for bitterness, no space for shame. My mind is holy ground, and only God's truth will remain here. And when you live this way, when you think this way, when you breathe this way, even if the world around you collapses, your mind will remain steady. Your thoughts will stand firm, and your life will reflect not chaos, but power, clarity, peace, and unshakable faith in the one who gave you your mind in the first place. For when your thoughts belong to God, your life is no longer tossed about by the waves. It is carried forward by the wind of divine purpose. There comes a moment in every life when we must face the hidden thoughts that have quietly shaped every choice, every reaction, every belief. It is not the storms outside of you that define you. It is the storms inside. The thunder may crash and the winds may roar, but it is the tempest within your mind that determines whether you stand firm or collapse. That storm, unseen yet powerful, must come under the authority of God. Let me speak to your spirit now, not with soft words, but with fire. You were not designed to be ruled by your emotions, enslaved by fear, or deceived by the whispers of doubt. You were made to think with intention. You were made to reason with truth. You were created to imagine in righteousness. Your thoughts were never meant to drift like uncontrolled winds. They were meant to be harnessed like sails that carry you toward God's purpose for your life. And yet so many live with minds weighed down, cluttered, confused, and condemned. Thoughts that replay the same pain like a broken record. Thoughts that expect disaster instead of anticipating blessings. Thoughts that keep dragging up what God has already called you to release. Hear me, when you allow your mind to become a burial ground for old wounds, you bury your future under the weight of what no longer has a place in your life. God has not brought you this far for you to be imprisoned by thoughts you never welcomed. And even if you once entertained them, today you hold the authority to drive them out. Thoughts of jealousy, release them. Thoughts of revenge, bury them deep. Thoughts that whisper, you will never be enough, silence them with the unshakable voice of truth. God has already placed within you everything necessary for the season you are living in now. Listen closely. One of the clearest marks of true spiritual maturity is not how passionately you pray or how much scripture you can recite. It is how you govern your thoughts when no one else is there to see. That is the true measure. That is the hidden battlefield of character. Can you direct your thinking when the lights are off, when no one is clapping, when life feels senseless, when your plans crumble? For it is in those unseen moments of mental discipline that God decides who is ready to be entrusted with more. And you, yes, you are being invited into more, but more never begins in your hands. It always begins in your mind. A greater mission demands a stronger mindset. A new blessing requires a renewed way of thinking. You cannot bear the weight of a divine calling with the thought patterns of a fragile spirit. You must be renewed from the inside out. You must unlearn the lies this world has taught you about fear, failure, and worth. You must learn to think as one who belongs entirely to God, who is guided by His Spirit, and who answers to Him alone. Stop leasing space in your mind to opinions that were never appointed by the Creator, what someone shouted in anger that is not truth, what your past tried to brand you with, that is not your identity, what failure suggested about your future, that is not your destiny. The only voice with the right to rule your thinking is the voice of God, for He alone holds the complete vision of who you truly are. But let's go deeper. Your thoughts are not only shaping your destiny, they are impacting every person you encounter. The way you think shapes the words you speak, and the words you speak shape the world you build. A mind poisoned with negativity will birth harmful speech. A fearful mind will radiate insecurity, but a mind anchored in God breathes life into every space it enters. Your children are absorbing the posture of your thoughts, even if they never hear them spoken aloud. Your spouse, your friends, your co-workers, they feel the atmosphere your mind carries. When your thoughts are rooted in God, you don't just bless yourself, you transform the environment around you. This is why your inner life must be guarded far more fiercely than your outward appearance. Do not place more value on how you look than on how you think. The real transformation is invisible. The deepest change happens in stillness, in quiet surrender, in the hidden place with God. And know this: surrendering your thoughts to God is not weakness, it is the greatest strength you could ever possess. For a surrendered mind is a dangerous mind, dangerous to the powers of darkness, dangerous to fear, dangerous to every lie that once tried to define your story. Make no mistake, your mind is shaping your story every single day. Your thoughts are the ink, your decisions are the pen, your future is the page on which it's written. What story are you creating? What legacy are you building with the seeds of your thoughts? Are you crafting a tale of defeat or discipline, of excuses or excellence, of hesitation or destiny? Every chapter of your life begins with a quiet conversation taking place in your mind. I understand that some of you have been entertaining unhealthy thoughts for so long that you wonder, is it even possible to be free? The answer is absolutely yes. Freedom begins the moment you refuse to agree with deception. You don't need to escape into a new life. You need to embrace a renewed mindset. You don't need the world to shift. You need your perspective to realign. Begin talking to your thoughts. Confront them. Test them. Ask yourself, does this thought draw me closer to God's plan or push me further away? Does it lift my spirit or limit my growth? If it does not serve the truth, release it. You owe no allegiance to a falsehood. You are not bound by the beliefs of your past. You are not imprisoned by generational mindsets. You are not sentenced to repeat the same destructive cycles. You are a thinker designed by the hand of God. Under His direction, you can renew your mind. You can break free from the loop. You can reshape the way you see, feel, and respond. And when your mind is renewed, your life will be transformed. But hear me, renewal takes consistency. One uplifting thought will not change your life overnight. You must train your mind daily. Feed it with truth, just as you nourish your body with food. You cannot eat once a week and expect to thrive. You must eat every day. In the same way, you must feed your mind daily. Begin your mornings with gratitude to strengthen it. Protect it in the afternoon with intentional focus. Cleanse it at night with reflection. A mind that continually turns toward God will never wander into ruin. Don't let your thoughts simply pass by. Challenge them, correct them, speak to them, and remove them if they do not honor the God who shaped your soul and breathed His purpose into you before the world knew your name. This is your identity. This is the rightful owner of your mind. No lie, no fear, no darkness can lay claim to what was made in the light. So I urge you, elevate your thinking. Raise your standard. Rise above the noise. Eliminate every thought that keeps you small. God did not design you to remain trapped in cycles of confusion. He created you to walk in clarity, strength, courage, and excellence. It all begins in the hidden sacred territory of your thoughts. When you change what you permit yourself to think, you change who you are able to become. And when your thoughts are surrendered fully to God, there will be no boundary to the life you can live, the victories you will claim, and the peace that will flow through everything you touch. Your mind, once the site of constant battles, can be transformed into a sanctuary not by force, but through faith, not by relentless effort, but through surrender, not by fear, but through the steady, unwavering remembrance of the one who holds every single thought in His hands. So step forward now, not in confusion, but in clarity, not in hesitation, but in confidence, not in weakness, but with a renewed mind anchored in truth, filled with God's presence, and fixed on everything you are meant to become. When the fire of faith ignites within you, it reaches even the hidden corners of your thinking. And hear me today, if your thoughts are not submitted to the authority of God, your life never truly will be. You can fast until your body is weary. You can pray until your knees ache. But if your mind remains unchecked, the enemy will slip in through the smallest cracks. The real war for your soul is not fought in your hands, it is fought in your head. In that secret place where no one but God hears the silent clashes, the greatest victories or the worst defeats are decided. That is where you must rise and declare, enough is enough. I will not be ruled by fear. I will not be driven by lust. I will not be bound by bitterness. I will not be shamed into silence. My mind belongs to the Lord. The one who learns to yield every thought to God becomes unstoppable, not because they possess unshakable strength, but because they walk with the one who cannot be moved. Do you understand the power of a single thought surrendered to Him? It's like placing a small seed into the soil of His perfect will. One righteous thought can blossom into a destiny. One disciplined mind can break chains that have lasted generations. One faithful decision can change the path of a family, a community, even a nation. This is why the enemy wages war against your thoughts, because he knows that if you ever master discipline in your thinking, your life will turn into a weapon of divine purpose. When your mind feels overrun with chaos, you must cry out to God with urgency, not casually, not half-heartedly, but as a warrior in the heat of battle. Rise early and speak directly to your mind. Today, I command my thoughts to align with God's will. I reject every falsehood. I silence every voice that does not come from Him. I reclaim what fear has taken. I restore what doubt has fractured. I choose to think only what God says I can think. And you hold that ground, even when temptation shouts, even when anxiety knocks at your door, even when depression tries to whisper you back into darkness. Because you are not who your thoughts tell you are who God says you are. And God never speaks in confusion. God never speaks in hopelessness. God never speaks in despair. He speaks life. He speaks peace. He speaks strength. And when His voice is heard, every other voice must bow. Some of you are living under mental torment because you have opened your mind to too many voices. You scroll without limit. You compare without pause. You entertain gossip. You consume negativity. And then you ask yourself why you lack clarity, focus, and peace. My friend, the mind cannot flourish on poison. You cannot fill yourself with fear and expect to walk boldly in courage. You cannot consume impurity and expect to live in holiness. You must guard the gates of your mind with the vigilance of a soldier defending a king's palace. Your eyes, your ears, and your conversations are all gateways. Watch over them carefully. Protect them through prayer. Guard them with purpose and awareness. Because when a thought enters, it seeks to take root. And once rooted, it produces fruit. So pause and ask yourself, what kind of fruit is your mind yielding today? Is it patience or panic, faith or fear, love or resentment? These are the true signs of who rules the throne of your thoughts. If it is not God, then every competing voice must be removed. Don't postpone it. Don't justify it. Don't say, this is just the way I've always thought. If it fails to honor God, it has no place in your mind. Your thoughts should be a sacred sanctuary, a temple where God's voice resounds louder than doubt, louder than wounds, louder than the echoes of past failure. You cannot rewrite your past, but with God's help, you can renew your mind today. There is nothing more powerful than a believer who has learned to master their thoughts, because that person does not merely react to life, they respond to God. When bad news arrives, their mind does not spiral into chaos. It runs to prayer. When offense comes, they refuse to dwell in bitterness. They release it to God's throne. When temptation lingers, they do not entertain it. They turn away and fill their thoughts with what is pure and holy. This kind of discipline is not formed in an instant. It is built when you make a covenant with your mind, when you say, my thoughts are not for rent. My mind is not a public marketplace. I belong to God, and every part of me, even the unseen parts, is His. I say this in love, but also in truth. You cannot truly walk with God while keeping thoughts that stand against Him. Light and darkness cannot share the same dwelling. You must decide today whom your mind will serve. Will it serve the fears planted in your childhood? Will it bow to the wounds of your past? Will it echo the lies of culture? Or will it serve the truth of the one who shaped you in your mother's womb and calls you His own? You must train your mind to move in harmony with God's Spirit. That requires time. It requires prayer. It requires stillness. Sometimes it demands fasting. It calls for cutting off distractions. It means replacing music that stirs the flesh with words that nourish the soul. It means meditating on God's greatness instead of your problems. This is how strength is formed, not by ignoring your thoughts, but by bringing them under divine rule. Every time fear appears, declare, this fear will not control my day. Every time anger tries to rise, declare, this emotion will not dictate my actions. Whenever discouragement lingers, affirm, this weight will not decide my future. Speak out, pray fervently, and pull your mind back into divine alignment. This is not a game of positive thinking. This is spiritual warfare, and your mind is the front line of the battle. But let me remind you, God has not left you without weapons. He has given you strength from heaven. He has poured out wisdom beyond your natural understanding. He has provided a shield of protection, if only you will stand and take hold of it. Do not wait for someone else to fight the battles raging in your mind. Rise up and say, Lord, I take authority over my thoughts and bring them under your truth. No more torment, no more confusion, no more divided thinking. My mind belongs to you. For when your thoughts come into obedience to God, your life begins to overflow with peace. Your choices become wiser. Your relationships grow healthier. Your purpose shines brighter. You start moving not like someone wandering in uncertainty, but like one guided by the hand of the Almighty. This is the strength of a transformed mind. This is the reward of choosing daily, hourly, and moment by moment to surrender your thoughts to the one who knows all, sees all, and holds your life securely. Keep your heart tender, yet your mind sharp. Be gentle in spirit, but unshakable in focus. Love people deeply, but never allow their opinions to drown out the voice of God in your mind. You may not control every circumstance, but by God's grace, you can control how you respond to it in your thoughts. And as your thinking changes, so will your life. Set your mind firmly on the source of your hope. Command it, as a leader commands an army, to stand in the truth. Remind your mind you will remain stuck in places you were never meant to stay. And the fourth is control. Oh, how we crave control. We pray, Lord, have your way, yet we hand Him a blueprint for how we want it done. We desire the blessing, but on our terms, in our timing, in the way we picture it. Yet God's blessings rarely arrive in the form we imagine. Sometimes the greatest step of faith is to take your hands off the wheel entirely and allow God to lead you exactly where He knows you need to be. My friend, these four burdens, the past, bitterness, fear, and control, are the very chains that keep countless people from stepping fully into what God has prepared for them. Right now, He is calling you to release them. He is saying, you have carried these weights long enough. You have wept over them long enough. You have prayed for change, but the change begins with you. Lay them down. Trust me. Watch what I will accomplish. Here is the truth. God is not waiting to make up His mind about blessing you. The blessing is already set aside for you. The door is already in place. The river is already flowing. But He will not open it while your hands cling to what He has told you to release. Let go, and you will watch the windows of heaven pour out abundance over your life. Listen closely, my friend. When God asks you to release something, it is never to leave you empty. He never called you to let go unless He intends to place something greater in your hands. But the tragedy is this: many miss the blessing because they fear the emptiness in between. They fear that letting go of the past will leave them with nothing. They fear that forgiving will strip them of justice. They fear that surrendering control will cause their life to fall apart. Yet the truth is that the empty space is exactly where God wants to meet you. That space is where His strength is displayed. If you fill every corner of your life with your own plans, your own power, and your own attachments, you will never witness what God can do with a surrendered heart. God works most powerfully in the gap between what you release and what He provides. If you trust Him enough to release your grip, you will see Him move in ways that will leave you in awe. Think of a seed it cannot grow until it is buried, hidden, and seemingly lost in the soil. If it clings to the warmth of the sun and the safety of your hand, it will stay small, unproductive, and unchanged. But when you release it into the ground, it dies to what it was, so it can become what it was always meant to be. That is what God is asking of you now. Release it, plant it. Trust that what feels like loss is actually the beginning of transformation. Letting go is not only about clearing away obstacles, it is about proving to God that you believe His way is better than your own reasoning. Too many pray for blessings while secretly thinking they know best. They want His reward without His process, His provision without His pruning. But God's blessings are never without conditions. And one of the greatest conditions is obedience. True obedience is not partial surrender, it is complete release. It is saying, God, even when I cannot make sense of it, even when it hurts deeply, even when it leaves me exposed and vulnerable, I will release it because I know you have never once failed me. Some of you are still holding on because you believe you are protecting yourself. You think that keeping your defenses high will shield you from disappointment. But the very wall you built to keep out pain has also been blocking the flow of God's blessings. You cannot receive with clenched fists, and you cannot be filled while still grasping the very things that drain your spirit. At times, God must empty your hands completely so He can place in them what will truly sustain and bless you. Here is the sobering reality: the longer you cling to what God has told you to release, the heavier it becomes. What may have started as a small weight eventually turns into a chain that winds itself around your future. At first it seems manageable, and you tell yourself it's not a big problem. But with time, it slows your steps, bends your posture, and saps your strength until one day you realize you are so burdened that you cannot even move toward the blessing that awaits. My friend, this is not God's plan for you. He did not design you to drag chains into the land He promised you. He created you to walk freely, unshackled from the weight of yesterday. When God tells you to let go, it is not a suggestion, it is a command for your protection. He sees what lies ahead. He knows the battles waiting in your tomorrow and the blessings already prepared for your arrival. If He says to release it, that means it will not serve you in the place where He is leading you. What you believe is helping you may actually be the very thing keeping you captive. I must warn you, there is great danger in delayed obedience. The longer you postpone, the greater the cost. Some of life's deepest losses happen not because God failed to provide, but because we failed to release what He told us to let go in time. If you wait too long, you might miss the appointed season. There are blessings that come with a divine window, a specific moment when God is ready to pour out favor. But if that moment arrives and your hands are still gripping what He asked you to release, the blessing may pass by untouched. And remember, this letting go is not only about major issues. Sometimes it is the small, hidden attachments that quietly block God's favor, that quiet resentment you never addressed, that concealed fear you disguise as caution, that private habit you keep promising to quit someday. God is saying, number not later, now. Because small things have a way of growing into giants, and giants will always stand in the way of your promised land unless you face them before you arrive. Do not believe for a moment that God's command to release is meant to harm you. His purpose is to make you lighter so you can move swiftly, to make you freer so you can rise higher. Everything God instructs you to let go of is something that, if kept, will eventually slow you down, distract you, or even destroy you. And if you could glimpse the blessing waiting on the other side of your surrender, you would drop it without a second thought. Here is the challenge. Faith means trusting God without having the full picture. Faith is believing that what He has prepared ahead is far better than what you hold now, even if what you hold now feels familiar and safe. Comfort is dangerous because it tempts you to stay where you are. But God is not calling you to a life of ease. He is calling you to a life of transformation. And transformation always requires letting go. There is someone right now who already knows exactly what God has been asking them to release. You do not have to wonder. You do not need another confirmation. You already sense it deep within your spirit. Every time you pray, it surfaces. Every time you try to plan ahead, it rises in your thoughts. And yet you have been wrestling with God, saying in your heart, maybe later, maybe when I feel ready, maybe when I understand the reason. But my friend, delayed obedience is still disobedience. If you keep waiting for the perfect timing, you risk missing the blessing altogether. When God says, let go, He is not inviting you to negotiate. He is calling you to step into a greater season. That season is not far away. It is as near as your choice to obey. The instant you release what is in your hands, God will release what is in His. And what He holds is far greater, richer, and more powerful than anything you could ever cling to. There's a truth you must hold close to your heart today. God is not bound by your situation, your past, or your present position. He can bless you anywhere, at any time, in any season. But there is one thing that can block the flow of His blessing: your refusal to let go of what He has told you to release. God can open doors no one can close, but He will not open them if you insist on dragging through the baggage He commanded you to drop. That baggage will never fit through the narrow doorway of His purpose. The entrance to your blessing is not wide and careless. It is narrow and exact. To pass through, you must set down everything that will not serve you in the place He is leading you. Many people stand before that doorway for years, pleading with God to let them in, yet still clutching what He has told them to release. But the truth remains, you cannot enter while holding on to that resentment. You cannot step through while grasping that relationship He has asked you to surrender. You cannot step forward while clinging to the same fears, doubts, and self-made plans that have kept you bound for so long. Letting go is not the loss your mind tells you. It is. It is the clearing away of what hinders so God can establish something far greater. When a farmer prepares a field for planting, he does not leave weeds, stones, and debris in place. He clears the ground completely. It requires work. It may feel destructive at first, but without that clearing, the seed cannot grow. God is working to remove from your life anything that would suffocate His blessing before it can take root. The question is, will you let Him? Many pray for God to bring a fresh season, yet they still fill their hearts with remnants of the old. They desire something new, but refuse to shut the door on what is past. My friend, a new season begins when obedience starts. The rain of God's blessing will not fall on soil still planted with seeds from a past He told you to release. Sometimes what you must let go of is not wrong or sinful. It is simply no longer meant for you. God can bless something in one season and then ask you to release it in the next. If you hold tightly to yesterday's blessing, you may miss the one He has prepared for today. The manna that sustained Israel in the wilderness was a miracle, but it was never intended to last forever. When they entered the promised land, the manna ceased not because God abandoned them, but because He had new provision ready. If they had spent their days longing for yesterday's manna, they would have missed the abundant harvest before them. This is why trust is essential. Trusting God means you believe that whatever He removes from your hand, He will replace with something far better. It means you stop demanding to know the reason before obeying and instead choose to walk forward. You may not understand now, but understanding often follows obedience, not the other way around. If you are waiting to have all the answers before you release, you are not walking in faith, you are walking in control. And control is one of the greatest barriers to divine blessing. Control offers the illusion of safety but robs you of destiny. Control says, I will move when I know the outcome. Faith says, I will move because I trust the one who leads me. When you release control, you are not stepping into confusion, you are stepping into alignment with the one who knows the end from the very beginning. I must also warn you, there are things in your life right now that seem harmless but are quietly poisoning your spirit. They may be small compromises, hidden habits, or silent thoughts you have allowed to remain. These subtle things dull your hunger for God's presence and weaken your sensitivity to His direction. You may believe it is just a small matter, but in the spiritual realm, small things always grow. What takes root in your heart will eventually shape your behavior and determine the path you follow. When God calls you to release something, He is not only safeguarding your future, He is also guarding your heart. The blessing He has prepared for you is not merely about material provision or outward success. It is about a deep transformation that begins from within. But transformation cannot occur if you continue to nourish your soul with what God is trying to remove. Do not be deceived into thinking you can carry both the blessing and the burden. Oil and water will never mix. Light and darkness cannot dwell in the same place. The blessing of God requires a pure heart and a willing spirit. If you insist on holding both, one will eventually destroy the other. Never forget, God sees what you cannot hide. You may smile in public, speak words of faith, and appear surrendered on the outside, but He knows if your hand is still gripping what you promised to release. You cannot fool the one who created you. He is not waiting for an impressive performance. He is waiting for your genuine surrender. My friend, I must say this with urgency: your breakthrough is nearer than you realize. You have prayed. You have waited. You have endured seasons of silence, and now the door stands directly in front of you. But it will not open until you loosen your grip. This is not a gentle suggestion from God. It is a divine requirement. The sooner you obey, the sooner you will witness His power in ways that leave no doubt that it was His hand at work. Some of you are standing on the edge of the greatest turning point of your life. And the only thing standing between you and that breakthrough is one decisive act of obedience, one moment of letting go, one step of trusting God enough to release the familiar and walk into what is unknown but divinely prepared. When you do, you will look back and wonder why you clung to it for so long. Because the very moment you release it, you will feel lighter. You will see more clearly. You will hear God's voice with a clarity you have not known in years. And you will finally understand that the thing you feared losing was never your true source. God was, God still is, and God will always be. I must tell you, when God instructs you to let go, it is never a suggestion to consider. It is a command given in love to position you for the very answer you have been praying for. Yet so often people treat God's call to release as if it were optional, as if they can hold on just a little longer and still receive what He has prepared. But you cannot walk fully into God's blessing with a divided heart. You cannot serve two masters within your soul. One will always pull you away from the other. There is a sacred pattern in God's ways. Before He gives, He often takes away. Before He multiplies, He prunes. Before He lifts you up, He first humbles you. And in each of those seasons, the act of letting go is essential. Picture a tree in autumn. Its leaves do not fall because the tree is dying, but because it is preparing for a new season ahead. God is doing the same in your life right now. The shedding you are experiencing is not His punishment, it is His preparation. What you feel you are losing is actually making room for what will one day grow in its place. Yet this is where many people falter. They try to carry old leaves into a new season. They cling to what was meant to fall away naturally. They try to reattach what God has already called finished and then wonder why there is no fresh light. My friend, God is speaking to you today. Stop holding on to what I've already declared complete. Stop trying to breathe life into what I've allowed to end. Release it so I can bring forth something new. Letting go requires courage because it means stepping into the unknown. And the unknown unsettles the human heart because it cannot be predicted or controlled. But what feels uncertain to you is already perfectly known to God. What you see as instability, He sees as His flawless design. That road ahead that seems empty to you is actually a path He has already walked. Every stone, every turn, every detail has been carefully prepared for your good. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is not the pain itself, but the identity you have formed around it. Some have carried their wounds for so long that they no longer know who they would be without them. Their hurt has become their label. Their battle has become their biography. But God never intended for you to be defined by your wound. He intends for you to be refined through it. That means even the part of you that has grown comfortable living under the shadow of your struggle must be surrendered. Understand this: letting go is not only about removing what is harmful, It is about creating room for what is far greater. If your hands are still holding on to what is merely good enough, they will never be open enough to receive God's best. Many of us are not bound by sin or destruction. We are bound by comfort. We have settled for less because it feels familiar. And we fear that God's greater might require more from us than we are ready to give. But I tell you, every greater blessing from God requires a deeper surrender. When He calls you to release something, He will not pry it from your hands by force. He waits for you to willingly open your grip, and in that moment of true surrender, something supernatural takes place. Your heart softens, your mind clears, your spirit aligns, and the space once occupied by fear, regret, or anxiety becomes the very ground where God plants His promise. And His promises never return void. Some of you are right now standing at a spiritual intersection. On one side lies the familiar, the people you've known, the patterns you've repeated, and the safety nets you've built for yourself. On the other side lies the unfamiliar, the ground you have never walked, the blessing you have yet to taste, the depth of freedom you have never known. And standing between them is the voice of God asking, will you trust me enough to release what is familiar and step into the future I have prepared for you? Letting go is not only an expression of faith, it is a declaration of war against every lie that insists you cannot live without what you are releasing. This is the enemy's most dangerous strategy, to make you believe that the very thing holding you back is the thing keeping you whole. He will whisper that letting go will cause you to fall apart. But God promises, if you let go, I will hold you together with my own hands. And there is no safer place than in the hands of the one who created you. It is far better to walk into an uncertain future with God than to stay trapped in a comfortable prison without Him. The walls you think are keeping you safe may actually be blocking the very answer to the prayers you've been praying. Some of you have been asking God to open doors, yet you remain sitting in a locked room with the key still in your hand. That key is obedience. The doorway is the act of letting go. The freedom you long for is waiting on the other side. Always remember this: when God calls you to release something, He is not taking away to diminish you. He is making room to multiply. God never leaves those who trust Him in a place of lack. Each time you surrender something for His sake, He replaces it with something far better, perhaps not instantly, perhaps not in the way you anticipated, but always in the way that perfectly fits your good. This is why you must trust His nature, even when you cannot understand His methods. You may feel unprepared. You may feel too weak. You may even think, I'm not ready yet. But readiness is not the requirement, willingness is. God Himself will provide the strength. The moment you take the step, the moment you open your hands, you will find His strength already waiting to fill them. That is when you will understand that letting go was never about losing. It was about making space for God's glory to fill your life in ways you never imagined. My friend, there comes a moment when holding on costs more than letting go. There comes a point when what you cling to is no longer a source of comfort, but a chain of bondage. The longer you grip it, the deeper it wraps itself around your life, until you realize you have been dragging it through every prayer, every opportunity, and every blessing meant for you. That is why in His mercy, God will sometimes allow you to feel the heaviness of what you carry, not to break you, but to show you it is time to release it. When God asks you to let go of something, it is never a random request. It is intentional, purposeful, and aimed precisely at what is keeping you from the fullness He has prepared. It is because that very thing, whether it is a relationship, a habit, a way of thinking, or a hidden fear, is standing squarely in the way of the next step God intends for your life. The Lord will never compete with your idols. nor will He place His blessings beside what He has already declared unfit for your future. If you truly desire His best, you must be willing to release what is lesser. Far too often we pray for His favor without preparing ourselves for the sacrifice it demands. We long for the harvest but avoid the plowing. We crave the crown, yet resist the refining fire. But God's ways are not like ours. Before He entrusts you with more, He will test the depth of your obedience. And that test rarely comes in times of abundance. It comes in the moment of release. Will you let go when everything in you wants to cling tightly? Will you trust His design when your own plans are crumbling? Can you believe that losing this thing is not your ending, but the doorway to something infinitely greater? God's blessings are not only about adding to your life, they are about transforming you. And transformation always requires removal. Imagine a sculptor at work. The beauty of the statue emerges not by adding more clay, but by carefully removing what does not belong. Right now, God is shaping you in the same way. Every strike of the chisel, every piece that falls away, every act of surrender is forming you into the person capable of carrying the weight of His promise. If you resist His shaping, you resist the masterpiece He intends you to become. Understand this: God will never bless you in a way that competes with His voice in your life. If the thing you hold on to speaks louder than His guidance, He will withhold the blessing until the noise is silenced. Sometimes letting go is not only about releasing tangible things, it is about removing the voices, influences, and distractions that cloud your hearing of Him. This may mean stepping away from certain people, leaving certain environments, or letting go of habits that keep your spirit cluttered and your heart restless. One of the greatest deceptions of the enemy is convincing you that letting go will leave you empty. But with God, empty is never truly empty. In His hands, what appears vacant becomes filled. What seems lost becomes gain, and surrender becomes your greatest victory. He is the God who takes what is small and multiplies it beyond measure. The widow who believed she had only a small jar of oil discovered that in the hands of God, that little became more than enough. That is the same God who turns your release into abundance. Here is the truth: letting go is not a one-time act, but a lifestyle. As God takes you from one glory to the next, every new season will demand a fresh surrender. What was acceptable in the last chapter of your life may become a hindrance in the next. This is why you must remain sensitive to His whisper, ready to lay down whatever He points to without delay and without argument. Delay is dangerous. Every moment you hold on to what God has instructed you to release, you give the enemy more opportunity to use it against you. That bitterness you allow to remain will begin to take root. That fear you continue to entertain will eventually build barriers around you. That unhealthy connection you keep holding on to will drag you further away from where God intends you to be. What you choose to tolerate will, in time, begin to control you. This is why when God commands you to release something, His call is always urgent. It is His way of shielding you from a future snare you cannot yet perceive. And here's the truth: sometimes letting go will make you appear unreasonable or even foolish in the eyes of others. People will question your decision. They will urge you to hold on, to keep trying, to give it more time. They will not grasp why you walked away from something they thought was good. But you are not here to live for their approval. You are here to walk in God's will. When the Lord says it's time, you must move whether or not anyone else supports you. Because those same people who doubt you now will one day stand amazed when they witness what God has done through your obedience. My friend, the life God is calling you to is not behind you, it lies ahead. You cannot step into it while constantly glancing backward, longing for the past. You cannot run toward your future while your feet are still tangled in the ropes of yesterday. The sooner you let go, the sooner you will be free. And freedom is not simply the absence of chains. It is the power to move without resistance in the direction God is leading you. Make no mistake, when you finally release what He has told you to, you will not only enter your blessing, you will also step into a deeper, more intimate walk with God Himself. Because letting go is ultimately an act of trust. It is declaring, Lord, I trust you more than I trust my fears. I trust you more than my own understanding. I believe you are better than anything I am releasing. When you live with that level of trust, blessings are no longer something you pursue. They begin to pursue you. God has already set the table in advance. The seat has your name on it. The feast is ready. But you cannot take your place while clinging to what He told you to leave behind. You must come with open hands, ready to receive what only He can provide. And when you do, you will discover that every act of surrender was worth it. Every tear, every sacrifice, every uncertain moment will fade in comparison to the joy of walking in His promise. Beloved, when you truly place your trust in God, you come to understand that nothing in your life happens by accident. Every delay, every detour, every closed door, and even every disappointment is part of the flawless design of His wisdom. God does not make mistakes. If He has withheld something from you, it is not because He has overlooked you, but because He is protecting you, shaping you, and preparing you for something far greater. Sometimes what you mistook for rejection is actually God's redirection toward your true calling. Do not judge your life solely by what you see in this moment. Right now, you only see a single frame, but God sees the entire masterpiece. The road before you might appear twisted and unclear, but from the view of the Almighty, it is perfectly aligned, leading you exactly to the destination He has planned. You may not grasp why certain people walked away, why some prayers seem unanswered, or why particular doors remain firmly shut. Yet if you could see what God sees, you would thank Him for every no and every season of delay. There are moments when God keeps you hidden in the shadows to shield you from unseen dangers. Just like a gardener buries a seed in the soil before it breaks through into the light, God sometimes places you in seasons of obscurity so your roots can grow strong before your life blossoms. Do not resent these hidden times. They are not punishment, they are preparation. When God is the one cultivating the harvest, the fruit will always be worth the wait. And remember this: when God chooses to open the way, no power in heaven or on earth can stand in opposition. The mountains you feared will become level ground. The waters you thought impossible to cross will part, and the enemies who surrounded you will be scattered. God specializes in transforming impossibilities into living testimonies. He can take the very thing that seemed destined to destroy you and turn it into the very thing that will elevate you. So keep moving forward with your head held high. Speak words of faith instead of fear. Stand firm in trust. For the same God who commands the rising of the sun and the setting of the moon is the same God holding your future. He has never failed, and He will not begin with you. When God places you in a season of waiting, it is never because He has forgotten you. It is because He is preparing you. Preparation is not punishment. It is the process by which He strengthens your faith, sharpens your vision, and aligns your steps with His perfect plan. You may look around and see others advancing, receiving breakthroughs, living the answers you have been praying for. But God's voice whispers, "Be still and trust that I am working in ways you cannot yet see." Just because you do not see visible progress does not mean nothing is unfolding in the spiritual realm. In truth, God often does His greatest work in silence, in the unseen places where only His eyes can reach. Know this: every delay from God is an act of divine protection. There are doors you may believe you are ready to enter, but He knows what lies beyond them. He sees the snares, the betrayals, and the weights that would overwhelm you if you stepped in too soon. This is why He will keep some doors shut no matter how often you knock, and why others will only open when your heart, mind, and spirit are prepared to handle what is inside. His timing is never slow, it is perfect. If He makes you wait, it is because He is arranging something far greater than what you requested. The enemy would have you believe that waiting means you have been abandoned. But the truth is, God's presence is often strongest in the very moments when it feels like nothing is changing. The seed does not sprout the instant it is placed in the ground. It must remain hidden in the dark soil, nourished by faith and patience, until the appointed time comes for it to break through. You are that seed. God has planted you in the soil of His divine purpose. And though it may feel as though you have been buried, you are not buried to perish, you are planted to flourish. So do not allow impatience to pull you out of God's perfect timing. Do not let frustration cause you to accept less than what He has prepared. If you rush ahead of His schedule, you will take on weights you were never meant to carry. But if you wait on Him, you will rise with a strength you did not know was within you. You will look back and see that every tear, every season of delay, and every lonely night was a necessary step toward a blessing so great you will declare, God's way was far better than mine. And grasp, my dear friend, grasp this truth. Every delay, every closed door, every moment that seems like a dead end is not proof that God has abandoned you. It is evidence that He is realigning you. When God is working in the unseen, He is not pressed by your timeline. He moves according to His flawless plan. What you interpret as silence is not His absence, it is the calm before His action. Just as a seed buried in the soil may appear lifeless, you too may feel unseen. But in that hidden place, God is strengthening your roots, shaping your heart, and preparing you for a breakthrough that will not be small, it will be extraordinary. Do not be fooled by outward appearances. The enemy will attempt to make you believe nothing is happening, but God's power is not bound by human sight. Faith is believing Him even when there is no visible sign. God does not need visible progress to accomplish His promise. When He speaks, it comes to pass. One word from Him can change the entire course of your life in an instant. This is why you must keep pressing forward, even when you cannot see the reason. The battle is not won by your own strength. The victory has already been secured in the unseen realm by the hand of God. And know this, the people who doubted you, who ridiculed your faith, who claimed your prayers were wasted, will one day see the very miracle they thought could never happen. For when God chooses to honor you, no voice, no force, no power can stand in the way. He can take the situation that seemed like your defeat and turn it into your promotion. He can use the very stone hurled at you as a step to lift you higher. This is why you must protect your heart from despair, for despair will blind you to the quiet work of God. So I urge you, stand firm. Let your trust remain steadfast. Let your hope be anchored in the one who spoke the heavens and the earth into existence. God has not forgotten you. Every tear you have cried, every night you have fallen asleep with a heavy heart, every quiet prayer you breathed when you had no strength left, God has counted them all. And when His appointed time arrives, He will release what He has been preparing, and it will go beyond anything you ever dreamed. For God is not merely the God of just enough, He is the God of abundance. When He is for you, every obstacle becomes a doorway, and every trial transforms into a stepping stone toward destiny. The world may stand against you, but its power is limited, for the one who commands the heavens and the earth has already sealed your victory. Understand this, nothing in your life happens by accident. Each delay, every door that remains shut and every unexpected detour is part of God's intentional design for your ultimate good. Though the weight of your struggles may feel unbearable, it is often in the pressing that the purest oil is released. God is shaping you, refining your character, and preparing you for a position you could never step into without first walking through this season of testing. Do not be fooled by appearances. The enemy deals in deception, but God works in truth. The storm you are enduring is not the finale, it is the announcement that your breakthrough is approaching. Even when you hear no reply, God is at work. Even when there are no visible signs, He is arranging everything. Even when your strength feels gone, His power is carrying you. This is why the wise do not waste their days in panic. They choose to wait in patience, trusting the timing of the Almighty. Never forget, God's silence does not mean His absence. The waiting place is not a place of waste. It is the workshop of destiny. Every prayer spoken, every tear shed, and every act of faith is being treasured and recorded in heaven. And when the moment God has set arrives, He will pour out blessings so overflowing that they will overshadow the pain you endured. You will stand in awe, realizing every sleepless night, every lonely step, and every season of struggle was worth it, because God was building something far greater than you imagined. So guard your heart. Refuse to let bitterness take root. Do not allow fear to govern your decisions. Do not give the voice of doubt more volume than the voice of faith within you. The same God who parted the sea for His people, who brought light into the deepest darkness, is walking right beside you now. He has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked you, and He will never fail you.